Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the sparkling but dangerous world of Los Angeles fashion and family feuds, Electra Forrester had finally discovered a glimmer of hope. After fleeing Remy Price's obsessive following and the deepfake controversies that nearly wrecked her reputation, she rebuilt her life at Forrester Creations. Working with her Aunt Ivy, Electra immersed herself in her internship, establishing her worth in the design room and winning quiet admiration from Eric Forrester himself. Her growing romance with Will Spencer, however, made her feel fully alive again. Will, the attractive and grounded son of Bill Spencer and Katie Logan, was everything she needed: compassionate, supportive, and completely committed. Their connection grew swiftly, with furtive kisses in the Forrester guest house and late-night discussions about hopes and futures free of the chaos that seemed to engulf everyone around them. Happiness, however, is brief in the unforgiving universe of the bold and the beautiful. It began with a night that Will could scarcely recall. Will awoke in Il Giardino with pieces of recollection and a gnawing guilt after drinking too much from a mystery bartender. He admitted some of it to Electra, assuring her that it was a meaningless mistake with a stranger he didn't identify in the dark light. Electra, still recovering from her own traumas, opted to forgive him. Trust, she reminded herself, was worth fighting for. They became closer, sharing intimate moments that strengthened their friendship. For the first time in months, Electra felt secure. Then came the shocking revelation: Luna Nozawa was alive. Everyone thought she was dead, shot by Liam Spencer in a desperate attempt to put an end to her deadly rampage. But Luna's mother, Lee Finnegan, had surreptitiously nursed her back to health while hiding her away. Luna, unrepentant and clever as ever, reappeared with a vengeance. She wasn't alone in her homecoming. She carried a secret that would rock Will and Electra's world. It happened during a heated exchange at the Spencer mansion. Luna, smirking despite her bruises from prison fights, slipped a pregnancy test from her backpack. Positive. And the father? Will Spencer. The night at Il Giardino had not been with a stranger. It had been Luna, disguised and premeditated, poisoning his drinks to keep him from resisting. She had battered him and entangled him in her web once more, all while planning her comeback. The revelation struck like a flash of lightning. Will was devastated, enraged by the breach and trickery. Electra, who had been there to help him through the confusion, felt her heart break. How can she compete with this? Luna's child would eternally connect Will to that monster, serving as a continual reminder and an open door for Luna to crawl back in. Electra escaped to the Forrester estate, crying as she confided in Ivy and then Hope Logan, who had unexpectedly become an ally. How can I build a life with him when she's carrying his baby? She was crying. Hope, drawing on her own complicated experience with Liam and the babies that bind exes together, provided comfort but no clear answers. Will pleaded with Electra, stating that his love was only for her and that the child was an unintended consequence of Luna's crimes. He promised to financially support the baby while keeping Luna at arm's length, possibly even battling for custody once born. Bill Spencer, enraged by the chaos Luna had caused in his son's life, threatened to take any means necessary to keep her locked up, pregnancy or not. Luna, on the other hand, nailed the victim role. She cried to visitors from behind bars about the harsh conditions that were threatening her unborn child, tugging on Will's growing sense of duty. Will, divided between anger for Luna and innate protection for the innocent life she carried, began to pay her more frequent visits. Electra sensed the difference: the distant stares, the late nights, and the way he spoke of the baby with a gentleness that wounded her soul. In quiet moments alone, Electra's sadness became stronger. She envisaged holidays ruined by Luna's demands, milestones celebrated with a woman who had murdered and controlled with impunity. The idea of raising Will's child alongside Luna's shadow was awful. Weeks progressed into months, and the strain grew. Paternity tests proved that Will was actually the father. Luna gloated from her jail, implying an early release for medical grounds and mentioning co-parenting and family togetherness. Electra attempted to be tough, going to prenatal visits with Will out of loyalty, but each ultrasound image felt like a knife twist. Katie cautioned Will not to let guilt ruin his future, while Ridge Forrester urged Electra to prioritize her happiness. Even Steffi, upon returning from her European vacation, pulled Electra aside to share stories about her own struggles with complicated familial ties. The significant condition developed gradually and insidiously. Electra began to experience symptoms she couldn't ignore, including morning nausea, unexplainable exhaustion, and a mild but persistent soreness. She initially dismissed it as stress, the emotional toll of Luna's pregnancy appearing physically. But deep within, skepticism set in. She and Will had been intimate several times since that fatal night, passionate reconciliations inspired of a desire to grasp onto each other. What if? On a gloomy afternoon in December, alone in the guest house, Electra glanced at the pharmacy test in her shaky hands. 2 pink lines. Positive. She was pregnant. With Will's child. The irony was cruel. While Luna's pregnancy threatened to pull them apart, Electra's could either save them or cause even more havoc. Panic ensued initially. How would they deal with 2 babies caught up in the same hazardous web? Luna would erupt in wrath, viewing Electra's pregnancy as a direct threat, a competing claim to Will's heart and legacy. Whispers about Luna's instability reached new heights. Speculations circulated that she might stage a miscarriage or, worse, plot against Electra to eliminate the competition. Will, pleased when Electra finally revealed the news to him, pledged to zealously defend her. "This is our miracle," he whispered, hugging her close. "A child born from love, not hate." However, the difficulties grew quickly. Medical difficulties arose. Electra's stress levels surged, resulting in spotting and doctor's instructions for bed rest. Fears of miscarriage loomed, reflecting popular fear that Luna's own pregnancy could end tragically. Luna stormed in her cell after hearing the news through prison rumor chains, destroying trays and yelling threats that guards struggled to control. Bill Spencer increased security around the family, fearing Luna's reach from behind bars. Family relations changed tremendously. Katie, excited to become a grandma twice over, but concerned about the emotional minefield. Brooke Logan moderated contentious debates, asking everyone to work along for the infant's sake. Hope, who was dealing with her own romantic issues, became Electra's confidant, exchanging late-night conversations about motherhood amid the chaos. Ivy Forrester, concerned for her niece, urged Electra to examine all possibilities, including migration if Luna constituted a significant threat. As Electra's tummy began to exhibit minor indications, the fundamental problem became clear. Safety. Electra received anonymous threats, including notes slid under doors and cryptic calls instructing her to back off or risk losing her kid. Luna denied any involvement, batting innocent eyes throughout visits, but suspicion rested squarely on her. Will engaged private detectives who discovered hints of accomplices from the outside. One chilly night, Electra awoke to a shadowy figure outside her window, which vanished before security arrived. Paranoia seized the Forrester and Spencer families. Electra's pregnancy became both a source of hope and a focus of danger. Ultrasounds confirmed a healthy heartbeat, inspiring Will with astonishment and resolve. He proposed to Electra on bended knee in the Forrester gardens, ring in hand, pledging a future for their family free of Luna's venom. Electra accepted, tears of delight mixed with trepidation. Wedding preparations began under heightened security, designer gowns were sketched, venues were investigated, but always with bodyguards on hand. Nonetheless, danger lurked. Luna, using her pregnancy to gain sympathy, arranged a transfer to a lower security institution for medical reasons. Rumors of escape plots proliferated. Electra, now in her second trimester, confided in Will about her innermost fears. What if Luna targeted their child out of jealousy? What happens if history repeats itself, with swapped infants or worse? Will calmed her, but secretly felt guilty. His one-night blackout had set off this nightmare. The climax intensified as the deadlines approached. Luna went into preterm labor first, giving birth to a healthy child amidst drama. Claims of exaggerated pain for early release were denied at the last minute. Will held his son momentarily, a mixture of affection and hate rising. Naming him became difficult, with Luna vying for control. Electra, supportive but strained, went to the hospital nursery and stared at the infant who shared blood with her pregnant child. Then came the twist. Difficulties in Electra's pregnancy worsened. Doctors cautioned about the hazards to mother and baby from high blood pressure and preeclampsia. Bed rest became stringent and anxiety skyrocketed. In a heartbreaking scene, Electra broke down to Will, doubting whether their love could withstand the storm. "This baby is our light," Will said quietly. "But the darkness Luna brings, it's consuming us." As winter entrenched in Los Angeles, alliances formed. Steffi and Finn rallied the Forestas, promising to protect Electra. Deacon Sharp, intermingled with Sheila Carter's own problems, provided unexpected insight into the redemption, or lack thereof, of villains such as Luna. Bill used legal means to ensure Luna's permanent incarceration upon her birth. Electra's delivery arrived amid confusion, with Luna's false alert diverting security and allowing a close call with an intruder at the hospital. Will, however, blocked it to protect his fiancée. Their daughter was born crying, healthy, and perfect. Electra felt stronger while holding her. The severe issue, Luna's shadow over their family, remained, but love proved indomitable. Will and Electra married in an intimate ceremony with their baby in arms, surrounded by family. Luna, depleted of power, slipped into jail obscurity, her child raised with boundaries. Threats continued to exist in soap opera land. Electra's unexpected pregnancy had been a trial by fire, forming strong bonds while exposing flaws. As they vowed forever, eyes met across the room, filled with hope and caution. Because in their world, tranquility is fleeting and the next crisis is always looming. The family grew, and dramas evolved. Electra evolved as a tough and protective mother. Will handled parenting on two levels, putting his true family first. But murmurs continued. Was Luna actually defeated? Or would resentment build, scheming revenge from afar? Only time, and the infinite turns of the bold and the beautiful, will tell. Throughout it all, Electra's transformation from victim to victor inspired. Her risky pregnancy served as a spur for progress. Serious problems tested them, yet love, both frail and fierce, persevered. Life went on in Los Angeles' fashion houses and mansions, glamorous, risky, and completely enthralling. Electra had always thought that life rewarded meticulous planning. She meticulously planned her days, matched her objectives with her responsibilities, and promised herself that if she remained disciplined enough, surprises would be manageable rather than tragic. That belief began to crumble as she stood alone in the toilet, staring at the small plastic stick in her shaky palm, realizing that nothing she had planned could have prepared her for what was to come. The news of her pregnancy should have been joyful, or at least hopeful, but it hung over her like a storm cloud that wouldn't move. Something was awry, and she knew it in her bones. At first, Electra attempted to convince herself that dread was natural. After all, unexpected pregnancies are often fraught with anxiety, and she had never envisaged becoming a mother in such difficult circumstances. However, this fear was different. It was severe, persistent, and accompanied by an increasing fear that the pregnancy itself was endangering her future, relationships, and possibly her life. Every calm time provided an opportunity for her thoughts to spiral, reviewing recent occurrences and wondering where things had started to unravel. The timing couldn't have been worse. Electra's personal life was already strained by unresolved conflicts, shifting relationships, and secrets that refused to be hidden. She had been working hard to regain trust with those closest to her, particularly those who had previously questioned her decisions. Now, the pregnancy threatened to reawaken wounds that had just begun to heal. She understood that once the truth was revealed, nothing would be simple, and everyone would have an opinion on what she should do. What bothered her the most was a growing list of physical problems that did not match what she expected. Fatigue settled on her like a huge blanket, surpassing ordinary fatigue. She had dizzy spells that occurred unexpectedly, leaving her clinging to door frames or chairs until the room stopped spinning. She couldn't sleep at night, instead having vivid nightmares and being constantly aware of her own heartbeat. She told herself she was overreacting, but she had a feeling there was more to it than that. Electra made a doctor's appointment in the hopes of receiving some reassurance. The clean light of the clinic did little to assuage her worries as she waited, hands clenched tightly in her lap. When the doctor finally spoke, his words were delicate and measured, with phrases like "monitor closely" and "potential complications." There were no conclusive answers, only a prescription for more tests and a warning that stress could exacerbate the situation. Electra went with pamphlets in her bag and fear in her heart. Keeping the pregnancy hidden became its own stress. She smiled when she was supposed to grin, dodged queries with practiced ease, and avoided situations when her exhaustion could be observed. However, secrets had a way of showing themselves in her world, particularly when emotions were high. Every conversation felt like a minefield, and every glance from someone who was aware enough to detect her distraction set her heart racing. The issue of who the father was loomed over everything. Electra's relationship past was difficult, defined by deep feelings and sad misunderstandings. She realized that telling the truth would require tough conversations, potentially setting individuals against one another and reigniting rivalries that had never fully died down. The prospect that the pregnancy would forever bind her to someone from her past overwhelmed her with both longing and horror. Her symptoms progressively deteriorated over time. Morning sickness became persistent, leaving her exhausted and pallid. Simple activities seemed gigantic, and her once sharp focus dwindled under the relentless strain. Friends began to notice the difference in her, commenting on how exhausted she appeared or how quiet she had become. Each comment felt like a small break in the wall she'd created to protect her secret. Emotionally, Electra felt isolated. She wished to confide in someone, to share the burden she bore, but trust did not come readily anymore. She was concerned that sympathy would swiftly turn into judgment, and concern would turn into pressure to make decisions she was not prepared for. Motherhood, once an abstract concept she had stored up for the distant future, now needed immediate attention, along with all of the sacrifices it entailed. The doctor's follow-up call verified her anxieties, but did not fully explain them. There were irregularities that warranted additional inquiry. Electra could detect the doctor's sincerity in his voice, even as he offered reassurance. She hung up the phone, shaking her hands, recognizing that this pregnancy had the potential to not only affect but also endanger her life. For the first time, she let herself consider the potential of losing the baby, or worse. That night, she broke down alone, the silence of her home intensifying every sob. She lamented the loss of control, the naivety of believing that hard work might keep her safe from disaster. She mourned the version of herself who was so sure of her course. Despite the terror and anguish, a glimmer of determination persisted. Whatever lied ahead, she knew she had to confront it head-on. When the truth ultimately came to light, it did so in shards. A missed meeting here, and an overheard phone conversation there. Whispers spread, and speculation escalated. Someone close to Electra confronted her gently, concern on their face. At that point, Electra recognized that hiding was no longer an option. The secret had gotten too weighty, and the implications of remaining silent were becoming as dangerous as the truth itself. When she revealed her pregnancy, the dynamics altered abruptly. The reactions varied from shock to hesitant support, wrath to skepticism. Some questioned her judgment, while others expressed genuine concern over her health. The father's reaction was arguably the most unanticipated of all, a jumble of perplexity, responsibility, and unresolved emotion that left both of them stunned. The pressure to make decisions increased. Doctors reviewed several therapy choices, lifestyle adjustments, and the potential of bed rest. Family and friends provided advice, which was sometimes useful, but also overwhelming. Everyone appeared to have an opinion on what was best, but Electra felt increasingly distant from those perspectives. This was her body, her life, and her future, but it felt as if she was losing control. As the problems became evident, Electra was compelled to confront her own feelings of vulnerability. She had always taken pride in her strength and being the person on whom others relied. Now she required assistance, and accepting it felt like admitting defeat. But each day, it became clearer that she couldn't do it alone. Moments of sweetness arose amidst the tumult. Quiet chats late at night, hands held silently, shared gaze conveying understanding without words. These experiences served as a reminder to Electra that connection was possible even in the face of uncertainty. They gave her the strength to persevere, to attend appointments, to ask difficult questions, and to speak for herself and her unborn child. Nonetheless, the uncertainty was unrelenting. Test results were inconclusive, necessitating additional waiting. Time appeared to stretch indefinitely, with each day defined by cautious optimism and underlying dread. Electra learned to live in the middle, where nothing was certain and every small accomplishment was celebrated. The emotional toll began to manifest in unexpected ways. She got increasingly irritated and sensitive, snapping at others who did not deserve it. Guilt followed fast, adding to her already heavy load. Even while stress seemed unavoidable, she was concerned about its impact on the baby. One particularly unpleasant appointment required Electra to consider the worst-case scenario. The doctor was open about the dangers and possible results, emphasizing that there were no easy answers. Electra listened, numb, as if the ground beneath her was always shifting. As she left the clinic, she understood that optimism and fear were no longer diametrically opposed, but rather coexisted within her, inseparably linked. As the weeks passed into months, Electra began to shift. The catastrophe peeled away some of her illusions while revealing a toughness she had not realized she possessed. She learned to ask for help without feeling ashamed, to create boundaries with others who overwhelmed her, and to seek out moments of serenity whenever possible. Despite the risks, the pregnancy served as a drive for progress. Relationships continued to evolve. Some became stronger as a result of mutual worry, while others fractured, unable to resist the pressure. Electra realized that not everyone would stay and that, while difficult, loss was sometimes unavoidable. She concentrated on individuals who showed up on a regular basis, listened without judgment, and offered support instead of demands. The question of the future remained open. Nobody knew how the pregnancy would finish or what obstacles awaited afterward. But Electra began to see possibilities again, however hesitant and delicate they were. She envisioned a life characterized not by fear, but by perseverance and love. In quiet moments, she spoke to the baby, unsure whether it could hear her, but reassured by the gesture. She apologized for the turmoil, promised to try her best, and spoke her anxieties out loud. These private discussions helped her stay grounded and reminded her why she was battling so hard. The gravity of Electra's pregnancy became clear, not only medically but emotionally. It prompted everyone concerned to slow down, evaluate priorities, and face facts they had previously ignored. It was a watershed moment for Electra, when she realized she couldn't keep being who she was and had to embrace who she was becoming. No matter how the narrative ended, one thing was certain: Electra would never be the same. The pregnancy tested her strength, connections, and sense of self in unexpected ways. However, behind that struggle was the prospect of transformation, a reminder that even the most terrifying chapters might result in unanticipated progress. Electra walked on, carrying both fear and optimism, knowing that neither could exist without the other. The road ahead was uncertain, but she had discovered that ambiguity did not imply defeat. It meant taking each day as it came, cherishing the moments of brightness, and trusting that she would find her way through the darkness.